Welcome to Enlightened, the enlightened journey of life. I am your host, Jen Hamilton, and it is an honor to have you here. I am a conscious life coach and women's empowerment mentor, and I activate a potent level of self and soul inquiry with my clients, which initiates deep and lasting transformation in all areas of their lives. I am here for the full human experience, authentically and audaciously sharing my magic with the world. On this podcast, we're all about mastering life on the way to enlightenment. And as we are here having a human experience, we might as well embrace it all. We play in the space of what is real and tangible, just as much as we play in the space of esoteric and metaphysical. You'll be ignited by deep conversation, whether through my own personal musings, interviews with incredible thought leaders around the world, and everyday divine humans sharing their soulful stories. Thank you for being on this journey. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful soul. Just to let you know that listener discretion is advised for this episode and to be mindful if there are kids around as it contains adult themes. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlightened podcast. And today I am joined by a very special guest, Evelyn LaVasseur, who is a transformational speaker, nutritional coach, certified group and personal trainer, and has a specialization in behavior change. She also holds a BA in psychology and a master's degree in education. After almost 19 years of dieting, Evelyn realized that focusing on food and exercise alone was not addressing the root of her body issues. The real work had to start on the inside. Evelyn now helps her clients find food freedom by using her 3M method: mindset, moderation, and movement. Together, Evelyn and her clients shift the focus from chasing a perfect body to healing their relationship with food and laying a healthy foundation for generations to come. In our chat, you're going to hear so many deep dives into mindset and nutrition and what it's like to be a woman in the world. And I'm so excited for you to hear all of the magic that we have together. So without further ado, let's dive in. So welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining me. You're a mindset and moderation nutrition coach, and I absolutely love this. And I know that our listeners are going to absolutely froth over all of the incredible stuff that we're going to talk about today. The first thing I want to ask you is, where is it that you find inspiration in your life?
Oh, 100%. The easiest answer is in my children, because yes. I can say that becoming a mother was not easy for me. So I feel like I have a very higher level of appreciation for the gift that I have in them, but also I feel a very strong awareness that my thoughts and my actions and behaviors and habits literally are shaping who they become and how they feel about themselves when they're adults. So I think it's easy to keep on the forefront of my mind that how I live shapes who they become, and it makes making good choices for myself feel that much more aligned with who I want to be and how I want them to feel.
Oh, I love that. And I resonate with you so much on that as a mum, and it's also, being in the space that we're in, in any sort of coaching, personal development, whatever it is that we want to call it, we bring awareness not only to ourselves, but then how we're, shaping the lives of the generation that's coming through, through our children. And, by doing all of the work that we do on ourselves, which we therefore, take onto our clients, it really does have the biggest impact on our children, because obviously, they're they're our future essentially. And so I love the way you completely summed that up. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do as a mindset and moderation nutrition coach.
Oh, so it's in a nutshell, when women come to me saying, I just want to lose 20 to 30 pounds. I've tried X amount of diets and they always work for a little while and I put the weight back on, and, their feelings are around, I have no self-control and I have no motivation or I have no discipline. But really, when we get into it, the truth of the matter is that they've spent the majority of their lives believing that a smaller version of themselves is going to bring happiness. But also, following diets and following rules and following guidelines served one purpose, and that was to disconnect them from their gut instinct, from their intuition, from their ability to trust themselves. So we do a lot of work around unlearning old habits, reframing those stories, and really truly practicing daily tools that help them make that connection again so that they can trust themselves around food at any time, and not feel like they have to continue on that restrict then binge cycle.
We see it so often. I have been through this personally myself. I grew up with my sister having an eating disorder. And, and as a coach myself, like I work with a lot of women who are not only disconnected from their bodies, but have these unhealthy tendencies and disordered eating. And I love that we are able to turn the spotlight onto it. And instead of just going like, very much, 20, 30 years ago when my sister was moving through an eating disorder, it was like, okay, put you in a mental health institute, or do this, do that, don't do this. Like at home, the F word for us was the word fat. We weren't allowed to say the F word. And, the way that in which I sort of grew up understanding what body image was, it was very warped. It was a very warped perception based on my sister's view of the world. And then reflecting on myself going, well, hang on a second. If she thinks that she's overweight, which she wasn't, very, very far from it. If she thinks that and I'm bigger than her, am I bigger? Should I be dieting? Because I was like, a little bean when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was very active and I was very, very lanky and slim. Tape it off a bit from that now. But I didn't kind of have to worry about it until it was sort of right in front of me. And even though I grew up, I was quite active. I was never overly concerned with my body image itself until it was right in front of me in all of these magazines, when we started, reading these, Dolly magazines and Cosmopolitan as we got a little bit older. And it was all of the conditioning that was right in front of us. And one of the things that I started realizing recently, and I've been talking to so many of my clients about, is, the conditioning that we had from such an early age from the movies we watched. And I remember growing up, my favorite movie from a very young age was the movie Grease. And in that movie, what I then started to understand, as a grown adult now, that it was cool at the end, to be a smoker and to wear makeup and to dress differently to get the guy's attention, completely, abandoning yourself and who you are and what you look like to try and get his attention back, because that's how you gain love, or that's how you gain respect, or that's how you gain validation. And I mean, it's no wonder so many women have grown up with eating disorders. I grew up smoking because I thought it was cool, just because I wanted to be like Sandy from Grease, because that's the way that like everyone thought that she was just the best thing ever and she got all of the attention. And so, that damage was done from such an early age. And that's just one instance. If we look at, all of the Disney movies, there was a particular body type of all of the princesses. And ultimately, if you look at every Disney movie, it was the princess or the female character that essentially had to abandon themselves and their desires and their needs in order to get Prince Charming, in some way, shape or form. And so the culture essentially that we grew up in, in our generation really has set us up for failure, or not necessarily failure, but just complete disconnection from ourselves, from our bodies, from the love that we're able to hold for ourselves. And I love that you're in this world sharing your magic, to support people through, mindset coaching, because it is all about our mindset, because, ultimately all of these pieces of information that have come in to us have been stored in our subconscious mind that are ultimately creating and shaping the world in which we see, in which we experience. And we can absolutely unfuck ourselves from these things as well. And that's essentially what you're here to do.
Yeah. And the truth is, when you really get into it and you start thinking about all these thoughts and stories that you've carried with you and the ways you've defined yourself and the way that you kind of judged yourself and berated yourself, those thoughts aren't even your own. They aren't even really what you feel about yourself. They've just kind of been embedded since you, like, from when you were little. For me, I say, in my house growing up, there were the rules around, like, you don't get up from the dinner table until your plate is empty. You don't get dessert until you finished your dinner, which, I understand that my parents wanted me to be taken care of and they wanted me to eat healthy meals. I get that. But also at the time, the message to me was, even though my belly is saying I'm done, my mommy is saying I'm not. So I have to listen to her, right? Essentially, what does that do? Disconnect me from what I'm saying or what I'm feeling, right? So I just silence the body cues and instead listen to someone else, which is why I think for me, it was so easy to fall prey to dieting, because if Jen told me just eat this, then I had to do that, because it's so much easier to trust Jen than it is to trust me.
Yes. Oh, that was my experience as well. And I guess the thing in which I feel blessed about is my mum was never a yo-yo dieter. So I didn't model yo-yo dieting. But what I did experience was exactly the same as you, Evelyn, where it was like, you stay at the dinner table, you finish what's on your plate. Did you know there's starving children out there that don't have access to what you have access to? All of those, deeply ingrained things. And like, as you said, we listen to our parents and we take on board what it is that their expectations, because that's how we grow and we learn. And ultimately, it's very likely that that's what they experienced in their generation as well, because there was a food shortage, there was famine, there was war, there was all of this like scarcity mindset and lack mindset, which is ultimately how their childhood was shaped, how their experience of being parented from their parents or caregivers was shaped. And that's where they learnt from. And this is how we create these generational wounds, traumas, experiences, whatever you want to call them. One of the things that I discovered, it was a couple of years ago, I found out, I kind of was just like, why am I anxious every time I go to bed? Like, why does my mind start to replay all of the things from the day that just didn't go right? And it would just be like that snowball effect where you think of one thing and it's like, oh my God, that. And I would just basically just think about all of the things that were going wrong in my life will happen that day. And then when I started doing some work on myself, I realized when I was naughty as a kid, my mum would say, go to your room and think about what you've done wrong. So I would go to my safe place, I would go to my bed and I would lie down. And what would I do? Do what mum told me to do. Think about what I've done wrong. So I created an association with lying down on my bed to think about what I'd done wrong. And so every time as an adult, I was subconsciously getting into bed. And that's just what I learned to do, because the way that we are is based on what we've learned to do. And it runs so deeply ingrained with us that it's like, well, until, someone plants the seed and says, hey, you have a permission slip to think differently. Or if we broke down this belief and completely deconstructed it, what would you want to believe instead? Then we just keep doing the things over and over again because we don't actually have conscious awareness of it. If they're in our subconscious, that's 90% of our mind capacity. It's not in our conscious awareness. We don't know about it until we do. And once we know the things, we can't unknow the things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was just one of the ways in which I was like, whoa. And that was a game changer for me. It was a full blown awakening that I had around it, where I was like, whoa, this whole time I'd been going and lying down on my bed, thinking about what a shit human I was. It's because that was so deeply ingrained from such a young age. And this is what can happen around food. Like someone, could say to someone, oh, you're eating that again. Or do you really think that that's good for you? Or, once on the hips, lifetime, once on the lips, lifetime on the hips, or just stupid shit that we have been fed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And mostly women, like there's this expectation of women to be a certain way. Oh, have you bounced back after the baby? Are you going on, the wedding diet? And it's just, I get so passionate about it, as I'm sure you do as well. Yeah.
I think ultimately, like, all the lessons that we're taught repeatedly, the ones that we don't even think about, the ones that are automatic, are all rooted in keeping us small, keeping us searching for validation from other people, keeping us shrinking ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally, striving for, greatness, but keeping ourselves in a box. Like it's such, like our lessons were so confusing repeatedly. But I think also we watch the women in our lives when we're younger not ever focus on their wants or their desires or their needs, right? So I think for me, I know I cannot talk about one woman in my family that like went all in on something that she loved, something that brought her purpose or something that made her feel fulfilled. It was about, I mean, literally, truly, the way that you show love is to completely neglect yourself. And the more exhausted and fatigued and overwhelmed you are, the better a job you're doing. So, you know, that lesson is so deep that we almost, I think about it, if that were literal, if I were saying that out loud, like the way to show love is to neglect yourself. Like, I can't imagine the confusion I'd be teaching my daughters in showing them now, you are amazing, you are intelligent, you are, you know, reflective and resilient. And I literally can see the world change when they walk in a room, no question. So imagine me seeing that potential in them and then saying, but if you decide to have a family, you have to ignore everything that's in your heart and everything that's in your gut, because the only way to be a good mom is to be an exhausted and burnt out one.
Oh, yes.
What a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I hear you, because I work with so many women that are in this cycle and in this mindset, and it doesn't have to be this way anymore. So when people come to see you, because you mentioned that obviously you're a coach, and so you see people online and take people through a journey essentially with you. What is it that you're seeing? Like, is there a pattern or a theme that's sort of particular to, you know, that women are coming in that are quite specific, that you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yep. This is, here we go again, almost like this is, it's like, you know, a copy paste pattern that you're seeing.
I can almost say without a doubt that everyone comes in saying, I just want to lose this weight. I just have to get this off my body. And they believe that on the other side of reaching that goal is happiness. But truly, when we get down to it and we get, you know, a few weeks in and we start talking about the habits and the learnings and the lessons and everything else, the reality is that what they're chasing is a feeling. It's not a number. They want to feel confident. They want to feel sexy. They want to feel like when they walk in a room, they bring the energy. They want to feel validated and seen. And what I love most of all about what I do is that by the time they leave me, yes, they have a healthier relationship with food. And yes, they understand what their own intuition is telling them. But also, my favorite part is that they learn that validation and, you know, worth and value and strength and confidence and sexiness and resilient is not something they're going to get from anybody else. They have to own it and claim it and know it and feel it and live it. And that's what I feel is the most powerful thing about being able to work with women this way, is that you watch them change in real time, not just physically, but that mental and emotional component of seeing a woman come into the power that she is. That's fulfillment for me.
Oh, I totally hear you there. And I love it. I love this topic, and I love that we are here to support women on this journey, especially if we have been through it ourselves. And, you know, we are relatable. We are able to speak through experience, because no doubt, you know, you're doing this work because you've been through it yourself. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey that, you know, made you decide, like, this is what I need to do. This is my dharma, my soul purpose. This is what I'm here to bring forward for women. How did you get into this?
You know, so as a kid, I was pretty lean, a little muscular. I was very athletic. And I got so much attention and accolades. You're lucky that you're so thin. You're lucky your waist is so small. But, you know, to my young mind, what did that tell me? To get all that positive attention, I have to maintain this. So when I went to college and I put on like that freshman, okay, I didn't put on freshman 15. It was more like the freshman 20. But when I put on that freshman 20, I literally felt like I didn't know myself. Like, who is Evelyn without that body everybody's always talking about? And that's when I tried my first diet. And let me tell you, I loved it, because being my first diet, I'm like, I just need to manipulate my food a little bit and my body changes quickly. Like, this is easy peasy, until it wasn't, right? So then again, not looking at myself or anything that I'm going through, I just said, it must be the program. Let me try another one. And same thing, that works for a little bit. Put the weight back on, let me try another program. Next thing you know, 19 years later, still snowballing, running through the same cycles, and always telling myself I'm eating for health. this isn't a diet, this is a lifestyle. I said it all the time. I just eat healthy, but really I was restricted. Really, I was having incredible cravings. Really, I was looking at other people's food and being like pissed off, like, I wish I could shove that fucking chocolate cake in my mouth right now. Like, when you walk away, I'm definitely stuffing some of that in my face. So it was the constant feeling of I'm not enough, of I'll never be enough, I'll never look the part. How can people respect me or love me the way I want to be loved if I can't even take care of myself the way that I want to, right? And then there was my road to becoming a mother. So, I married, my husband is literally my favorite person on the planet. We got married. He wanted kids immediately. I did not want kids immediately, but we did suffer 2 losses. One early in my pregnancy, one almost midway through my pregnancy. And that sent me into a dark place. And honestly, of not trusting my own body, like to see this change in my body, to feel something living inside of me, someone living inside of me, and then to go to a doctor one day and they say, I'm sorry, there's no life there. It just changes you to an extent. But I do feel like when I finally had my first daughter and I heard her cry, I felt like I was breathing for the first time because I really held my breath through her whole pregnancy. And then this is the wild part for me, because you'd think like that would have clicked and I would say, I have to do something different. But what clicked for me was I have to do something different for her, right? I have to raise her to be strong and self-accepting and self-loving. And I did that with intention, but I didn't really make the connection at that time that I couldn't just live for her and want better for her. I had to show her. I had to live and embody the person and the feelings I wanted her to have. And it's literally I can picture the day where my mind, everything clicked. Everything clicked. My business changed. The way I worked with my clients changed. I was at a picnic with my husband and now my 2 daughters, because I have 2 girls now. And I served them lunch, literally a burger, corn on the cob, and a salad. And a woman says to my oldest daughter, who was 10 at the time, she says, honey, if you want to maintain that figure, you better lay off those burgers. And yeah, that face. Yes.
So, ouch.
Right? I could still feel the rage go up my spine when I think about it, because when you're so intentional to not ever speak that way, to not ever teach those lessons, and then someone from the outside comes in and just smashes everything that you worked on, it hurts. But also, let me tell you, it was hugely eye-opening for me to recognize that we are a part of the problem. We're telling our kids there can be great, or they can be great, they can be anything, but we're forcing them to just focus on their physicality. And we do that by our own actions and our own thoughts. And it was literally, listen, in that moment, I felt rage, and then I felt such extreme clarity around the mistakes I was making by not, how could I expect my daughter to feel something about herself that I haven't shown her? Where is she going to learn that? How could I want what's best for her, but not for me? How could I expect to be here for her in longevity when I'm living my life in self-consciousness and, just in self-disgust, truly? Like, how could I want better for her and not for me? And how did I go my whole life not realizing that I was always deserving of that, regardless of what my body looked like? How did I not know that? And now I do, and I can't unknow it.
Yes. Oh, it's so powerful, isn't it? And I absolutely resonate with what you went through when you went to college, because I went through this about 5 years ago when I separated from my children's dad. I had, I'd started kind of spiraling down a bit when I realized that our relationship was starting to fall apart, and I'd lost a lot of weight. And then going through this separation, I turned to smoking, stressing, drinking, not sleeping, partying when I didn't have the kids. And I lost a lot of weight very quickly. And I was being validated for it. Everyone's like, oh my God, you look great. Oh my God. And I was running a gym at the time. I was the manager at a gym. And so it just looked like I was training a lot, but I would literally go home and smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol in the night. So I didn't have my children. And I was like, fuck, I can't give this lifestyle up. I have to, continue on this cycle because I only knew external validation. I was completely numb inside, that I just relied on everything outside of me to feel something, some sense of worth, because, going through this separation, I was the one that decided to end the relationship. So I was moving through a lot of the guilt that I felt within myself, and that was also being projected at me from family. How dare you break up a family? How could you do this to him? How could you do this to your children? All of that. And all I wanted to do was numb out. So that's where the alcohol came in. And then it was like, but thank God I'm skinny, because that's, at least I get attention, at least I feel good in my clothing, as opposed to, how I used to be like, I'll just buy, cheap clothing that's just, for the sake of it kind of thing, because I didn't value what I was wearing, because I thought I wasn't worthy at a certain size. And so just going through all of that, and then having to heal through that through my journey as well. And like for me, the catalyst was, starting my coaching journey, learning hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, NLP, thinking to myself at the time, like when I had the download come through that this is the path that I wanted to take, it was all about how could I help other people, not realizing that through the learning process, I had to do the work on myself, and I had to hold the mirror up to myself and be like, fuck, if I want to take people on this journey, I have to do this for me. And I went over to Bali on a self-love retreat. And it was interesting because at the time I was also running an e-commerce business. So I kind of, I paired the retreat in with like just doing a little bit of research for some products over there. So really cock blocking myself and self-sabotaging to not really fully drop into the experience. Cause I was like, if I don't want to do a task, I'll just say I have to go see this supplier or something like that. But then realizing that was me absolutely sabotaging myself, not wanting to fully drop into the experience and do the activities. And then, one of the sort of the catalyst for me was when we were asked, would we speak to our best friends the way we speak to ourselves? And I was like, I absolutely would not. Like that would never happen. And, now I ask myself, like if I catch myself in these old patterns or tapes, I would say to myself, would I speak to my daughter like this? Yeah. And absolutely not. It's like, where did we learn to speak to ourselves like this? How did we learn that this was acceptable to speak to ourselves like this when we actually would never say it to anybody else? Other than maybe the lady with the burger comment that you had with your daughter. But it's interesting, like if someone feels the need to say something like that to a child and project that, how much pain she must be in. And, we can hold empathy for someone that's going through that. If they feel the need to say that, I mean, we can absolutely get angry about it too, because that's a human emotion that we get to experience. But bringing it back around, like I was at this self-love retreat, and that was the catalyst for me to go, hang on a second, if I was just nice to myself. And I truly thought that self-love was just for wankers. I was like, oh my God, not one of those fucking self-love people that, I love myself and my own best friend. That was me, 10 years ago. I'm like, so wanky. And now I'm just like, self-love is the only way.
100%, 100%.
Like I am my number one priority. And my priorities are fluid. When I've got my kids, they're my priority. When I'm interviewing on a podcast, that's my priority. When I'm with my partner, he's my priority, but I'm always my number one. I'm always there. Wherever I go, there I am.
I say that all the time. Like, I feel like now going through the healing, because there's so much healing to be done, but going through it all is really like, I'm able to be my biggest fan. Like I am a fan of me. And I love that with each, first of all, we all think that like we're going to be healed one day, but I think that is just constant. Like, yes, you heal one version of you and then you uncover other things that are still holding you back and you just continue to grow. But I feel like with each new thing that I learn about myself and rewrite the story for myself, I get to love a whole other layer of me, and also I think the biggest piece of it is not only just learning to love who you are, but holding compassion for who you used to be, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And now that I know, I can look at the former version of me and say, listen, it's okay. Literally what you went through made me who I am today, and I'm grateful.
Absolutely. I'm always acknowledging and honoring that past version of me, because if she didn't go through what she went through, I wouldn't be who I am today. And being able to go, all right, I've got through this and continue to get through it. You know, healing is not linear. It's definitely a journey. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to step into this space where I can take people on this journey as well and support them and grow with them and show them the tools that I use. And also, you know, invite them to have a look in the ways in which they know that they can heal themselves. Because ultimately, you know, whether we're whatever label we choose to give it, you know, coach, mentor, facilitator, teacher, whatever the title is, ultimately underneath, we all have a healing capacity. And for me, being a healer is just me showing someone, hey, you've got all the tools that you need. What is it that you can do to heal yourself? Because, you know, the first step to growth is awareness. As soon as someone has awareness that they want to create change, that's when they start their healing journey. I can supply all of the courses, all of the modalities, all of the videos, all of the life experience. I can give someone every bit of resource I have, but if they're not ready to receive it and willing to do the work on themselves, then it's just not going to land. And at the end of the day, that's okay, because that's where they're at. But you know what? One of the biggest things that I want to get across, you know, to our listeners is that, you know, the healing journey is a choice that only you can make. And only you have to go through the stuff and the things. You know, your coach, your healer, your guide, your mentor are there to just show you the path that you've got ahead. But ultimately, everything does come from within. And I know that this is a big part of the stuff that you work with women. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like in, you know, when you do your work and take women on this journey, helping them find what it is within that they need to find.
You know, we always start out very, I don't want to say superficially, but somewhat superficially. We get into listing out some of our thoughts and ideas around, you know, the comparing the good versus bad and things in our food. And we love to label everything, and we love to label ourselves. But the journey really is going through, starting out by recognizing, identifying these ideas that you've had in your mind, the things that are holding you back, the rules that you're trying to follow that are literally taking over your mental capacity throughout the day. I mean, your brain only has finite space for decision making. And if you're making them all around food and calories and macros, like, you're overwhelmed by 12 p.m. So, you know, we go through this unlearning of some of these things and implementing tools that they can practice in real time. But really, even though the tools feel superficial, the intentionality, the stopping and checking in with yourself, the journaling around your thoughts, the being present is where the journey really starts to take off, because you're no longer following rules. You're now questioning and uncovering and recognizing and using the things that you see about yourself as data only, without judgment, because that's where your power is in making a change. So I love the idea that we work on this relationship with food, but ultimately they heal their relationship with themselves too.
Yes, I love it. And it's so needed in this world at the moment. It's so needed. I would love to share with our listeners, like, what is it that, in what capacity can they, you know, reach out to you, work with you? I know that you've got your group coaching that starts in January of 2023. So obviously, if you're listening to this episode and it's after that, obviously we'll have in the show notes as well all the ways in which, you know, everyone can connect with Evelyn. Tell us about the 12-week program that you'll be running from January.
So we'll be starting out in the group capacity. I do offer one-to-one coaching as well for women who feel like they want more privacy, more hands-on hand holding, because when it's in the capacity of being vulnerable with your feelings, right? Some people feel very uncomfortable sharing that with others, and one-on-one is a great fit for that. But the group coaching I love, because when you see yourself surrounded by women who share your feelings, who give you permission to be vulnerable, who give you permission to share what you're feeling without judgment, there is a sense of community and empowerment that makes you feel like I am not alone. Nothing that I'm feeling is original, to be honest. We all have different stories, but we all share the same pain. And I love the idea of being able to surround women with other women that are on the same path, because I really believe that that's how we elevate, that's how we rise together. So the group coaching is 12 weeks where a module is released once a week. You focus on that module for the week on your own, and then we come together to clarify, work through some problems, get the tips and tricks going, the unlearning, the uncovering. I love journaling. We do that as well. And then a lot of implementation in real time.
I love it. It sounds amazing. I'm such a huge fan of group programs as well. And I find, whenever I'm facilitating a group program, the energy of the women that come together, it's like it's almost like a force or a power beyond us, whether we call it, God, universe, source, whatever, has like aligned everyone to come together, that just formed this connection and bond. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you get me, like you understand what I'm talking about right now. And that's what I love about group programs. So it's very, very exciting that you're running a group program. Is this something that you'll be running regularly?
Yeah, so I'm looking to deliver the group format 3 times per year.
Perfect. Excellent. So everyone I'll link to your website so everyone can go and find you on there. What is some wisdom that you would like to impart to our listeners around anything that you choose? So it could be around mindset, about body image, connection to self. What is something that if a woman listening to this goes and says, oh, wow, that was exactly what I needed to hear. What is coming through for you from a soul perspective that women need to hear from you right now?
I think that we all live our life, or have lived our life, desperate for acceptance and validation and comfort and joy. But finding it within ourselves is literally the catalyst to give other women permission to do the same. So I love looking at the idea that the healing that I do literally allows other women to stand in their own, and we just create a ripple. And I can have this visual in my mind of the work that I'm doing impacting other women, impacting their daughters, impacting their nieces, their cousins. When we heal ourselves, we heal every woman that interacts with us, and I feel like we are some powerful people.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. And Evelyn, one last question for you. From your perspective, what is the meaning of life?
Oh, the meaning of life for me is to live and love and just live, to just be present every day with the people that matter the most to you.
I love it. I love it. It's so true, isn't it? It's that human experience, isn't it? It's just realizing that at the end of the day, we're here to have this experience, and we don't have to embody all of those conditions that were put onto us, all of those old beliefs, all of the things of religion and patriarchy and culture. all of the moving pieces. And look, even though they've all been there, I think as women especially, and through, the grand rising of the divine feminine within all of us, is that we're ultimately coming into our power. Mm-hmm. And this is the work that needs to happen. It has to start with self. It has to start with self so that we can, be the ripple, we can be the light for other people. Because when we do something and embody something for our highest good and be the best version of ourselves, we become that invitation and the permission slip for everyone else, as you said, to do so. If we show up as, the version of us that is in alignment with the highest good for ourselves, then we're saying to everybody else, hey, do you know what? You're safe to do this too. You know, let me show you how I've done it. You know, take what you need from me and, you know, go out and do this. And exactly what you said, you know, we are the light for our daughters, our nieces, our sisters, our cousins, our colleagues, you know, even the conversations that we can have with the person, like the checkout supermarket person, you know, that we go to the bakery, get a loaf of bread, and instead of, you know, saying, oh, how are you? It's like, what's lighting you up today?
Yeah.
You know, like let's start having these different conversations. Let's, you know, just showing up as our fullest selves so that we can continue to rise and do incredible things in the world. Because, you know, I think it's for so long women have, you know, felt as though they have to be less than, or that they have to be a certain way in order to receive that validation and look a certain way and behave in a certain way. And at the end of the day, it's all bullshit. It's all just conditioning.
Yes. You know, and I really think that I start to see probably in the last 3 to 4 years for myself, the more that I just felt centered and aligned and comfortable with who I am, the more like my energy took care of the things I wanted and didn't want in my life. Like, I feel like the way I show up, the way I speak, the way I interact with people is a natural repellent to the things I don't want and an attraction to the things that I do. I get more of what I want in my life literally by just being me.
It's so true, isn't it? And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all frequency, and it's basically like the frequency that we're on is what we're going to ultimately attract and repel. You know, if we're on a frequency, then we're going to experience things from that frequency. And this is why, like, it's so important to love our meat suit, our vessel that, you know, essentially just houses our soul, that we can have this human experience. You know, I always take my clients through an exercise where, you know, we reflect. If we say we're, you know, on our deathbed at 104 years old and we were to reflect on our lives, what is it that would be the key theme that we noticed? And, you know, when I started doing this exercise myself, I was kind of blown away, because I'm like, wow, I was just really stressed, or felt like I had to work, you know, to the bone, and, you know, work till I'm 65 and then get the pension. And, you know, you don't have a business, you work full time for, you know, somebody else, so you get all the benefits and all of just this deeply ingrained stuff. And I was like, hang on a second, that doesn't feel good for me. I'm going to follow what lights me up. And, you know, I'm living an incredible life, and it's only getting better and better. And my frequency, it attracts, you know, incredible people like yourself, incredible clients that I get to work with. I have so many women in my field that are, you know, full body fuck yeses to this work. And they're like, yes, I need a piece of this. And anything that's not in alignment with this is going to fall away, because it's a different frequency, and that's okay. And so, you know, one of the best ways that I say to people that you can, you know, raise your frequency, even though, you know, we're not creating separation, it's not right and wrong, good or bad. To raise that separation, it's about, you know, it's doing like the self-devotion, whether it's, you know, meditation, whether it's prioritizing nutrition and nourishment and hydration and rest and boundaries and speaking your truth, and all of these things that ultimately they might feel really small, but they're going to be the catalyst for transformation. So it's incredible that we're on this journey, and it's been absolutely incredible to connect with you, Evelyn, and hear, you know, your journey and the incredible work that you do. And I love that you're just bringing so much magic to the world. And I know that our listeners will have taken away so much from our conversation today. So as I mentioned, I'll pop into the show notes, Evelyn's website, Instagram, so you can connect on there, and ways in which that you can do her courses, programs, one-on-one. She also has the opportunity to book in for a complimentary session. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Free audits.
Beautiful. Amazing. That's so generous. Thank you. So yes, all that will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for joining us today. And we look forward to having you on the show again.
Thank you so much. And listen, I just want to say also thank you for the work that you're doing, because when women come together like this, they can't help but elevate. So I love that you're, sending your own ripple.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlighten podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.